Mission for the day is oil change on the diesel. It's a pretty tight engine room here on Sitka. Like if you can see, there's no freaking space. We're gonna pump that bad boy out. This whole thing is now filled with oil. Successful oil change.
Hi, my name is Kenna, and this is Jay. We live aboard our Choi Lee Offshore 41. Her name is Sitka. I'm new to sailing, but I'm learning and loving it more and more each day. Jay, on the other hand, was born a salty sailor. As he takes me under his wing to get ready to sail around the world, join us on our adventure of falling in love with the beauty of life and the wonders of each other. Welcome to the story of us, and welcome to Sailing Sitka.
Alright, so today is day one of Kenna being back home. She's gone for 10 days. So today, mission for the day is oil change on the diesel and getting some new propane. So we'll start with the diesel. So things I need to do is I need to grab my extractor pump, which I keep in this lazarette down there. I need to obviously open up the engine room, so take this out of there. Open up this cupboard, so remove all this provision stuff to get access to a new oil filter. Then I'm gonna have to turn the engine over, let it run for about half an hour so they get the oil nice and warm. And we're gonna pump that bad boy out and change the filter, put some new oil in, and then run it a bit and check the levels again, and that should be good to go. So let's get started. All right, so we got 2 steps done. We got our pump ready. Wasn't too bad, even though there's a lot of stuff to remove to get to it. And then this is the locker where we keep all our engine stuff. So all our engine stuff's in here, spares. So here, found my oil filter, and a lot of times the Yanmar ones are hard to find. So I keep the serial numbers of everything, and then crossovers that are easier to find in a lot of places. So that's the crossover, and that's what I've been using the whole time. I even wrote oil there. Past J fought about future J, which is nice. So here's what an oil filter looks like for those of you who haven't seen one. So anyways, we're gonna replace that only once the oil's out. Put that away. We'll put everything away and then we'll start going. So as you can hear, the engine's running. So we're gonna let that go for about half an hour, 40 minutes. At the same time, I'm using this as a dual purpose. It's also charging the main battery, sorry. So once those batteries are charged up, our oil is also going to be pretty hot at that point, so that's perfect time to extract it with a pump. They do sell electric pumps, but on here it's the good old pump, works great. So you guys remember our old hot water tank? Well, now that whole area is turned into tool storage, so I just got to remove that thing, which is just friction fit in this groove. And this is where I had to cut the extra wood there on one of the previous episodes. And I just had to go in there to grab my filter wrench, which I'm gonna be honest, this wrench works great when you have a lot of room. It's a pretty tight engine room here on Sitka. You're gonna see that in a few minutes, and there might be a couple French swear words being exchanged between me, Sitka, and the engine, but at the end of the day, we're still good friends. All right, people, let's go. All right, so now the engine is warm. So, okay, so this might sound stupid, but if it might save one person from getting burned, never take your coolant cap off, ever, unless your engine is cold. Please don't do that. All right, now, for the oil change, for most diesel engine of this size, marine diesel engines, they do not have a cap on the bottom of the sump like you would traditionally find on a car, which would be very, very, very nice to have on here so you could drain it. But like if you can see, there's no freaking space. Like the oil filter's there. I wouldn't even be able to reach the underside of the engine anyways in this case. So you have to pump it using a pump like this, a vacuum pump, through the dipstick hole. So I'm gonna take the dipstick out. I'm gonna lay that dipstick here for now. And then what you wanna do is also take the oil cap off. Make sure it's the oil cap and not the coolant cap. Now, you don't need to take it completely off so no debris gets in, but just crack it like that and just sit it on the top so air can go in. So that way the pump can do its job, or else it can airlock and not work. And then you want to put this little bad boy all the way down. And it goes quite low. There we go. I think that's the bottom, yeah. And then you just pump and you'll create a vacuum basically. And then you see the oil? That tube went black. And now that the oil's hot, it's gonna go quite well If you try doing this without starting your engine and letting it warm up, it's gonna take forever. So I really highly suggest you you take the time to do this. Anyways, this can take anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour to get all the oil out. So I'll spare you that time. But when we see each other again with the magic of the internet, the oil's gonna be all in this thing. I also carry a 5-gallon bucket on deck from Canadian Tire, which is just a normal hardware store back in Canada, for which I can transfer this into it. The oil was a bit overdue on here by a few hours, but I wanted to wait for being in a place like La Paz where I can get oil and dispose of the old oil in a responsible manner. And Marina de La Paz, great marina, and also takes oil, which is really nice. Even though we're not a member of the marina or paying for a slip, we're just paying for the dinghy dock, but all that is included with the dinghy dock, which makes it really, really nice. Anyways, talk to you in a bit. All right, well, there you have it. This whole thing is now filled with oil, and it's really not pumping anymore, so I think we've pretty much pumped it all. So anyways, I'm gonna turn the camera off. I'm gonna transfer this into my bucket here. This bucket, and then you see this bucket has already had oil before, but it's good to carry those because it's a great way of transporting oils and other chemicals ashore. Anyways, all right, so some used oil, and yes, don't panic, it is supposed to be black. It is a diesel engine, not a gas engine, so yes, black is good. When the engine was brand new, it never went black. It stayed kind of like a trans fluid, kind of amberish color. And now it's finally at the stage where there's enough hours on the engine. We're like about at the 5. What are we at right now? We are at 584 hours on this engine. So now the oil is finally black, like it should be. And yeah, so now. From now on, from a while ago, it's always been doing an oil change every 250 hours. We're more around the 300 mark right now, to be fair with you guys. But like I said before, there's a good reason for that, and the oil was still good. It always depends too on how old your engine is, what type of quality of oil you're using, if you're changing your filter every time, how hard you push your engine, and so forth and so forth. It's good to go by the manufacturer's recommendations though. In this case, we just had to go a little over, but the oil is good. I'm looking at it. As you can see, it's viscous everywhere. There's no little, particles or none of that crap, which is good because that could indicate some metal wearing down, which can be normal for the first oil change sometimes, but not so much at this point in the game. So anyways, putting this bucket outside, I'm gonna go have to dump that at the marina later. I'm also gonna drop off her propane tank. This is a nice man who fills them for all the cruisers on Mondays and Fridays here. La Paz makes it really easy for cruisers to stay a while. So anyways, so now my next thing is taking that filter off. So that's the white filter that's right down there. And as you can see, there's not much room to work, the length of maybe an index finger. So it's a bit of a pain in the ass. And then I'm gonna put this new one on. And then I'm gonna fill the oil. And now I'm using a different oil. Well, same quality, just different range. So this is 15W40. The other oil I was using before was 10W30. And really the only difference is the viscosity. So with the 10W30, that gives you a wider range in the cold. So up in Canada, obviously, it can go below 0. So it was we needed that oil. Versus now in Mexico, they don't even sell that oil here. You'd have to import it. So obviously, it doesn't go below 0. If it goes below 0 here, we have bigger problems. The engine's gonna be the last of my worries. It's probably like Ice Age 2. And I'm gonna, I'm gonna have to run around, try to find some acorns and not crack the ice and fall through. Anyways, see you guys. All right, well, removing the filter went easier than last time and easier than all the other times, so that's good. So there's the oil filter. So I'm just gonna grab a tiny bit of oil with my finger here, and I'm gonna come and grease that gasket here with some oil. And I use that tool to take it off, but you wanna not use a tool to put it back on. You only wanna do it hand tight. All right, so now we should add just about over 5 liters, and this is 3.7 per. So you see how the oil is like an amber color, and then after about 50 hours with that amount of hours on it, it should go black. It's better to not put too much, because then it's way harder to pump it out than it is to just add a little bit more. So I'll put, obviously I need to put this whole thing at least, so I'm gonna dump this whole thing, and then for the next one, it should only take about 1 to 2 liters. There is always a bit of oil left in the engine, like it's impossible to take all the oil out. Obviously all the walls are lubricated and so forth. And then I also put a piece of paper towel folded in half just under the filter. I'll show you guys after, so that way when I run the engine I can see if there's any leaks. Like I said, I just hand tightened it. Alright, so now that guy's all empty. First one don't count. We're just above the bottom line, so we're gonna add a tiny bit, maybe just shy of a liter, and see what that does. Sorry for the film angle, guys. I'm by myself. It's a little harder to get cool shots here. I'm doing what I can. So luckily for us, the nice people at Chevron, they marked the bottom, the back of the bottle here, so you know. So there's 3.7 liters, so when you get to the 3 liter mark, you burn about 0.7, which right now is just ahead of that, so I'll put a tiny bit more. And the engine should have, I took a picture of the specs because I never remember by heart, 4.7 to 5.8 liters. Obviously 5.8 is if you got like the engine's brand new. So I'm gonna test this out. Like I said, easier to put some back than to take some away. So let's test this guy now. See, now it's like almost above, but when you run it, it tends to go down because right now it's all accumulating in the sump. So once we run it, we might have to add a tiny bit, but yeah, that's good. That's like just above the halfway mark on one side. So you want it to be between those two lines. I don't want to insult anybody's intelligence, but if it can help one person, that's good. Now we're at the fun stage. Put the cap on here before I create a mess. And yeah, another thing too is when you're doing anything with your engine, just try to make sure nothing gets in your engine. Like you don't want any dust or anything getting in there. That's good. Alright, so engine is back on, so we'll check the paper towel. The paper towel's right there. There might be a tiny bit of oil on the bottom part because that lip, when I take the old filter out, always gets oil and it's pretty much impossible to clean. My hand doesn't fit it there, so let's see. Yeah, so there's no oil. That oil is from the lip. So where there would be oil, would be that line right here, and there's nothing. Successful oil change. So now we'll let it run for about half an hour, and then we'll dip the oil again, see the level, and see if we need to add some or take some out. Usually it's add, but I think hopefully we did good and we don't have to add any. All right. You know what's crazy? Is I told you guys we were a little delayed on the oil change, but I was wrong. Because our last oil change was at 3:45, and that's confirmed by here. But the crazier thing is I did it on December 5th, 2021. Oil change 3:45, so that would put us our next oil change at either 1 year or 250 hours, which would be 596. And guess what date is today? It's actually December 5th, which is insane. I didn't plan it that way. And so now we did the oil change at 586, so just before the 595 mark. But within they say either 250 or a year. So like, I swear to God, I did not plan it. So that's awesome. Anyways, well, it's good. Just shut it off. Tested the volume, so we did good. Don't need to add some. Don't need to take some off. So now I'm just gonna go dump the oil in the Marina safe recipient and drop off a propane tank to get refilled. So got the oil here, garbage to drop, And one of our propane tanks right there that needs to be refilled. That tank, it's a normal barbecue one. And for those who are wondering how much propane we use, so we use that propane for cooking. But we were 3 on board for the whole time that we were using that tank. And sometimes doing like coffee, tea, which takes a lot of propane when you're doing like 3-4 times a day, sometimes 5-6 times. And that tank lasted us like over 2 months from Victoria all the way to Manawar Cove. So it's pretty decent. And I don't know how much it costs to fill it here, but it shouldn't be too crazy. Probably cheaper than Canada, as everybody here uses propane to cook in houses and restaurants. So anyways, gotta get that done. See ya.
Next on Sailing Sitka.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back.
Yeah.
Thank you for welcoming me back, Jay.
Your furling drum at the front of your boat, it's a great area to spray with fresh water when you get a chance. And good thing I did, because look what I noticed. So the pin that holds the tack down is about to pop out.
Just everything at once gets a little confuffled, but anyway, we fixed it.